let's just begin this stuff, and I hope it's gonna go smoothly, because if it's not, then it will just mean I wasted a lot of time, which I really hate wasting time like this. I mean, when you're supposed to appear and give previous notice, then... And what I mean by that, we should... Or at least I should begin the stream like half an hour ago, but I was waiting for someone, so... Like for the trainee. Because he was supposed to be there. Anyway, I'll just call him and... Hey! Oh, okay, my mic is muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Sorry for my English. It's really not my native language, so it's kind of it's kind of bad.
Yeah, it's not a problem. I mean, I'm not a native English speaker too, so yeah, I also make a lot of mistakes. So if something is unclear or you just want me to repeat something, then just tell me and I will do it.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so for starters, I will send you a request to watch the game, so you have to accept it on the Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's loading for me right now. Okay, so also, well, it's still loading. Did you make the list of questions, like I sent you in one of the first messages?
Yeah. Well, I only have 10, like really tedious questions. For example, I was playing and some guys told me that having too many ones, only one card of that type in the deck is really not that productive, I think. But so far my deck is kind of just composed of at least two cards of the same, but most of them are only timers.
Well, the type of the cards doesn't matter as long as the deck itself is consistent. Okay, I will send the invite to watch once again because I don't know why, but Steam is just not allowing me to see the game, so I will try once more. Okay, so the Steam simply says that your account have like a blockade and you cannot share your screen via Steam.
Oh. Crap.
Yeah, it might be really hard because other than that, like there is no reliable source of viewing the game in real time.
Right.
So yeah, it is a problem, a little one.
Yeah, yes. Well, this is kind of bad, I think.
Do you have like any knowledge why this happened? Like, can you fix it, or I don't know?
Let me try something. I think no. Let me see. Broadcasting. Oh. I don't have. Yeah, that's. I don't have enough privilege to broadcast.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's gonna
That's why
be possible.
I don't have enough privilege to broadcast live. So that's why.
Okay, so well, we can try one other option. Because they recently implemented, I don't know if you received it or not, because it was only for a few selected people, like 30% of the Discord. They implemented the screen share on Discord. Do you have this option?
I saw it, but it's just better, right? Just for 30% of people to test it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but right now, I didn't have it before, like the past week, and right now I see I can use the option, like it's under the conversation tab. So maybe you got it too. If not, then well, it's gonna be hard. Just check it. Maybe you got it.
No, I don't have it.
Okay, so that's quite bad. So I guess right now we cannot fix it, like the screen sharing, and without seeing the screen, well, it won't be that easy to just, because, well, of course, if you just go into the game and then still, even if you would describe the board state perfectly and such, it's still really hard to just tell everything,
Yeah.
like, because, well, I would have to imagine the entire board and imagine all of the things, so shadows, like opponents cards and such, and, well, it would just take time for it to answer for everything that's not present, so that's probably out
Yeah,
of
I
the
am.
question at the moment. So
Yeah.
well, so we can just start with the questions, and we can just probably solve some of them just via talking. Like, you don't need to play in order to learn something. Like, playing and misspectating is, of course, one of the things that can simply teach you something while just making decisions. But I can just also answer all of the other questions concerning the game and whatnot. So we can just
Yeah.
do it like with a talk session instead for this one.
Yeah. All right. So, it's how can I say it? Right now, I don't have a lot of Diamond Hunt, the ultra rare cards on my Shadowcraft deck. So I kind of just fill it with high cost cards. Is that really good, or I should put more low cost ones?
Okay, so I will just start with like the entire background. So how long are you playing the game?
I remember like 1 month, 2 months maybe.
Okay, and from I just assumed, as you said, you don't have too many of the high tier cards, right? Like you
I
don't
don't have
have.
that many. I think I just have like um, no, I have like four ultra rare. Yes, four ultra rares and like 10 golds. I think.
Okay, so that's not a lot, but that also looks like you didn't do any rerolls then, right?
Yeah. Yes, I have like more than 10. I have at least. Yes, I have at least like 22 goals or so, and legendary I just have. Um, oh, I just have 5.
Okay, so that's why I asked, because that simply just shows that you didn't do any rerolls, right? Like you didn't open a new account and try again until you get a lot of legendaries, because then you wouldn't stop at 5, I guess. Like
Yeah,
this,
I
huh?
mean, I heard it wasn't possible on Steam because I needed to create another Steam account, I think. And
No, you don't.
oh,
You can
well, I
just
haven't tried.
uh-huh, no problem. I mean, you can just download something like emulator for Android devices. So something like BlueStacks, for example, or Nox. Like these are two of the more common Android emulators. And then on one of these emulators, you can simply reel the account. It's taking like 3 minutes per account, and on every account, you can open up to 15 packs. And within these 15 packs, you can find probably around 10 to 15 legendaries. That depends, of course, on the luck, and sometimes it will take around 2 hours to complete. But that's only about reels. What's your rank right now?
My what?
Your rank in the game on the ladder.
The ladder? What?
On the ladder play like ranked play. What is your
Ah,
rank?
it's D0.
Okay, so it's the 0. So it's one of the lower tiers. So, if you do not have enough legendaries, and after you said your collection isn't very big, you should probably just consider starting with the small steps. So, if you don't care too much about your current collection, because there is a chance that you will get way bigger collection if you reroll accounts, you should probably start with just re-rolling, yeah, my spelling is terrible, your account. So then you can try the better one, like the one that will have way more legendaries, also the one that can have higher legendaries. And even if you would spend, let's say, 2 hours or even 3 hours, let's even say 5 hours. Even if you would spend like 5 hours to try to find perfect account, after you find it, you already made up for the time you would do for grinding these legendaries. So that's a lot of things that you have to consider about account. Also, I will just send you a link then. So because I already got all of this info compiled in my guide, so it might be useful then. Because from what I understand right now, you recently began the game, and well, you don't need like coaching too much, because coaching is more like in this game, and at least with this background session, it's more about just refining the playstyle and such when player already have a collection, already have these cards, while you are on the stage where you still need to build your collection. So no matter like what things you learn and such, when you do not have the required cards, like to compete with other players, you will lose while just by not having enough cards. Like if you do not collect enough legendaries to make a tire deck, or if you do not collect tire golds, then even the player who have no idea how to play the game, but he will just play powerful cards, might stand a chance. And that's not something that you would like to occur, I assume.
Oh. Yeah, that's kind of, well, that's
Because,
really nice.
so, because the thing is, even if I would to spectate you right now after you said that you don't have too many cards, I could tell you the place, I could tell you how you could just go and trade and such, but because you do not have complete deck, then trades will be different with the complete one. Because when you have certain cards in your deck, let's say your strategy is revolving around some legendaries and such, then your strategy as a whole can change, because then you can rely on odds. So I will make this play, and if I draw this legendary or this gold, then I will do this and this. While if you do not have it, then your line of play will be different. So right now, you probably should just focus on trying to get a decent collection. Well, the one which will allow you to compete with the other players. So if you're on the D right now, there is a lot of materials in the internet, a lot of links. Most of them you can find in the guide I just sent you, because well, it's like outdated maybe for 1 month, because the Wonderland Dreams meta changed a little, but most of them are still viable. So all you would just have to do is look at these articles and such, and then just start from the scratch. Because achieving the D rank, like you said, it's nothing. Like, you don't care about D. I suppose this something around 2,000 points, 3,000 points. I don't remember. But master is 50,000. So yeah, so getting to master is a long grind already, because the rank doesn't reset. So if you are on D, that's one of the lowest rank, like that's the one after the beginner. So it's nothing, like you lose some hours for grind, but if you get better collection on the other account, it's gonna benefit you more. And also you can name the very same, get the very same nickname on this account. So there are like no problems in getting the nickname you desire in the game. Just you have to remember that on the Steam, you can only link one account. So after you link one account with Steam, like you made the transition with the code, then it's just gonna be permanent. So on Steam, you cannot reroll, but you can reroll on the emulator. It's not hard, so you should probably be able to do it without a problem.
Yeah, because I actually had Shadowverse for my phone, but my phone is kind of crap, so I have to raise Shadowverse because the memory wasn't keeping up with it. I actually had a decent amount of cards right there for doing the resets, but my phone was trash, so I had to take to Steam.
Okay, but you could just join the account. Like, you could simply take the account from your phone and link it to the Steam, so you would have the very same collection on the Steam as you had on your phone. But if you said you did it already, then it's too late, probably.
Yeah, I see.
And anyway, you should probably still aim for reroll, because there is so many free packs that you can get for just starting the game. You will get a lot of ones, and especially considering right now there is this promotion for the Korean language where you change to Korean one and you get 5 additional packs for free. So that's around, well, you get 10 packs from the standard, 10 from Bahamut, 10 for Tempest, 10 for Darkness, 10 from Wonderland. That's like 50 already. You all get these 5 free packs. You also get some free packs for simply pressing the create the deck button. So if you just create the deck, then you will get plus 100 gold. So on every reroll, you're about to open something like around 60 packs. I don't know the exact number, but it will be around 60 packs. So in these 60 packs, if you get 10 legends, even if they are crappy ones, it's still gonna be better than your current state. But of course, you can reroll as many times as you want. So if you happen to get something like 8 good legends, then it's still gonna be better, because most of the decks right now have simply have something like 1 or 2 legendaries that are really essential for the deck, and the other cards are gold, silvers, and such. So if you just find a deck that you would really like to play, and then you just see, okay, I got 1 copy of this legendary, you can simply disenchant the other cards and create at least 1 deck. This game is ultimately all about grind, so you just need to make some disenchanting after getting your cards, just to create 1 deck. Because if you create 1 deck that's like tier 1, tier 2 even, sometimes you will not be able to afford tier 1, but right now tier 1 decks are rather cheap, so that shouldn't be a problem. So when you achieve, or rather get 1 of these decks, then your daily grind of points will be way easier. So we will be able to grind through ranks and get more cards. And of course, while getting more cards, you will just widen your collection, get more stuff, and then you'll be able to build more decks. So that's probably how you should just go with your Shadowverse account at the moment.
Yeah, because I only have like 6,000 vials right now. I actually have to liquefy like 2 legendaries I have and some golds I have to get vials. I just wanted 1 card and I end up with extra vials that I really don't know how to spend.
Okay, sure.
I can pretty much create almost any card right now, I think. Yeah, I can create any card I want, but except animated ones.
Okay, as for animated ones, if you do not plan to spend money on the game and you're not too much attached to the foil cards that are simply shiny, if you have spare copies of the shiny one on your account, then you should probably also destroy them, because, well, they look cool and they are fancy, but if you want to get your collection fast, like as fast as possible, without playing too much, then disenchanting foil cards gives you just more vials, so this means more cards in the long run. Also, right now, there are cards that are nerfed. So there are some cards that just got nerfed, and they get full value after disenchanting. So it gives you a higher chance right now on rerolls that you will get some cards that give you full value. For example, Ektar, the legendary for the Shadowcraft, got nerfed. So if you would happen to get one, then he's like the full cost of the legendary after you disenchant him. So if you get him, then it simply means you got any legendary from the game, like you can choose one and create it for the cost. And same goes for some uncommons and commons that got nerfed. And
because I can create the legendaries. I can create Nefertis, Lord Anatomy, Pluto, Lord of Lies. What the fuck? Like right now, I should probably reroll and then liquefy and then get more vials, something like that.
Yeah, that's probably the case. Right now, after that, you have Pluto, Lord of the Flies, and Atomy. These are the 3 cards that are just bad. They are not playing in any deck at the moment. And even though the meta got changed 2 days ago, so they nerfed cards a little, the cards that were strong are still gonna be strong for the next month, like for the entire September. Because new expansion is gonna hit around the beginning of the next month, so October. So there is still 1 month before the next expansion happens. So any cards, like any deck you create, is still gonna be good for the entire month, which is fine.
Oh. Mind of the Underworld is low tier?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Myth of the Underworld. Is it a good card or is it like?
No, it's not a good one. I mean, sometimes people try to do a meme deck with her, but the reason she's not good is that she is 4 mana 3/4, and she doesn't have immediate effect, so on the turn 4, if you're going second, you want to play something that have an impact on the board, or you can do an impact with the evolution point. So she later have impact on the board on the turn 4, and even if you evolve her, it's still gonna be something like 5/6. It's a vanilla creature. It's simply nothing at all. Like, she doesn't do much. She can also only be comped with the shadows in the later stages of the game, but if such later stages of the game happen, you'd rather have more efficient creatures, like better legendaries. So,
Alright, so it's safe to liquefy it.
yeah, it is.
Alright. Because I actually I have it in my deck, but I never use her, so it was like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I tried to use her once with Dance of the Dead. No, I don't remember the card, but it was like the highest shadow cost I have. But even then, it really didn't work.
Okay, I get it. I mean, she just sounds fine, but she's not good. Like, you won't see her in the decks at the moment, because most of them are just in the other one. Okay, so I have a list, but it's only from Tempest of the Gods, but it's still probably fine. Let me see. Okay, so it's okay, this one is kinda outdated. So in the link I sent you, there is also a chart with some liquefying cards, and most of them are fine. Like, there is like some cards got nerfed, so that would be Ruberos and Shadow Reaper. But other than that, like other than these two cards, this list is certainly fine, and you can just check into it. So when you open your legendaries, you can check if it's there, and if it's there, then it will be playable.
Oh. Alright. I really... Yeah, because I try to make different decks for the different playstyles, like Havencraft and all that. And, well, I just have, like... how is it thing? Yeah. I only have, like... three actual good decks, I think. But I always get screwed with the high tier cards, for example, with Runecraft, the one that gives you an extra turn, and in Heavencraft with the Heavenly Aegis. Like, I don't really know how to deal with those. For example, Heavenly Aegis, like, do you know any card that can be applied to Shadowverse, the Shadowcraft, to kind of stall it a little?
Okay, as for Aegis, so there is not a card that can stop it. Like, there is only one. I mean, the cards that change its power and toughness. So there is a card for Havencraft, Kaguya, and when she evolves, she summons something like Kaguya's Mirror or such, and it will change the attack of the Aegis to 1. But, like, that's it. Like, there are no... And that card obviously is not used in decks, because Aegis is simply not only not the most oppressive decks in the meta, but also not every Haven is gonna get Aegis. So this card is simply an interactive, and it's like ultimate anti-control card. So if Haven is able to develop Aegis on the board, then you probably lost if you do not kill him on the next turn. So the only way to counter Aegis is to just kill him before it happens. Of course, as a Shadow, you can play a card, Death's Breath, that will give you 3 creatures with ward. But the problem is, even if you do, the Haven player will just drop the Destroy Every Creature card, or he will play a Grimnir, which will deal 4 damage to all of your creatures, and it will just destroy your board, while Aegis cannot be destroyed by any effect. Like, it just cannot be, it will just stay there and it will attack you every turn. So this card, the only way to counter it is to win faster than the deck that plays it.
Crap.
Yeah, it's stupid, but it's how it is. So
so it's like a Bahamut, right? Because there actually was playing once, and I managed to destroy Bahamut, only for the player to draw another Bahamut right after that. And I was kind of screwed right there.
Yeah, but Bahamut can destroy everything, but can also be destroyed. And Bahamut have this clause that he cannot attack fairies unless your opponent have two or more creatures. So Bahamut still can be countered, he can be destroyed, so he's not as interactive as Aegis is, because Aegis literally just cannot be dealt with most of the decks, and it's just gonna stay there. Like, it cannot be transformed, it cannot be affected by anything. So the moment your opponent will play Aegis, it's just means that either you win next turn or you're gonna have a hard time. Like, Aegis gives you usually 3 turn clock, depends on how much life you lost in the game. So assuming we were at 20 life, that probably means you only have 3 turns of life, or even 2, because he's gonna start attacking. And also, if it's a storm version of Haven, sometimes even less, because they will just damage you, go with the Holy Falcons, Garudas, and all their stuff. But right now, Haven is not as popular as it should be. So the other thing is, in the link I send you, like at the very end, there is a links compilation, and within this links compilation you can find sites which have some tier list and they have some deck list. So and obviously they have the list for the current meta. So also you can just check the decks there, and maybe you will find one deck or 2 decks or just a class that you will like. And when you do the rerolls, just try to get cards that will fit your deck. So this way you will have less cards to craft and such.
Yeah. And with the one that gives you an extra turn in Runecraft, is there a way to kind of, counter, or is just like being prepared to that point? Or is like Aegis win, you have to win faster than them?
Yeah, it's like you have to win faster, because there are no instant spells. Like, I don't know if you played any other card games before Shadowverse.
Yu-Gi-Oh! What? Yeah, and the one for World of Warcraft.
Okay, so it's fun.
Shadowverse is like the third card game I play. The first one is Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, good. So, to put it simply, unlike in other games, in Shadowverse, you cannot interact with your opponent during his turn. So, if it's your turn, your opponent cannot disrupt you by any means. Like, the only way to disrupt your opponent is by Death Rattle or Agony. Like the creatures that die and make an effect, so that's the only way. But of course you would have to kill them first to trigger it. So if you don't kill them, well, then you don't trigger it. So it's not gonna happen. And with the Dimension Shift, he's simply taking extra turns. So if you don't kill him faster than that, he will just take an extra turn. You can do nothing about it. He will attack you, then he will take probably another one and another one, because they play 3 copies of taking the extra turn card. And you have no way of countering that. So the only way to build this kind of deck is to just be faster than that. But obviously, you won't mid this deck too much. Right now, the deck have its weakness. So it's obviously made like this, that the card costs 18. So you actually have to cast a lot of spells to make it viable. So you can cast it for the cheaper amount. Like, you have to cast 8 spells at least, or rather spell boost it 8 times, because there are cards that spell boost other cards for more than one. But you have to cast at least 8 spell boost cards to cast it for 10. So you have plenty of time, and usually they will try to go off on the turn 7, 8, 9, something like that, like the later turns of the game. So if you are playing aggressive deck, then you can simply force your opponent, like push your way through, deal enough damage to stop him, and well, then you will simply win by sheer aggression. That's the only way. Sometimes you can play with a ramp deck, so with a ramp deck you can ramp enough and play some storm creatures, because common ramps right now, like Dragon Ramp, that's the only ramp in the game, because other classes doesn't include all ramp cards. So with the Dragoncraft you can simply ramp your way through and just play some storm creatures. So that's it. But there are no pure counters to it. So sometimes the strategies involving such cards are deemed OP, like overpowered, but they are not. Like, every deck right now have a counter, even if it's a really small percentage, it's still gonna be it. Of course, the other thing in this game is that going first is really huge advantage. Like, they try to lower it, so they make some nerfs, they make some balance changes, but sometimes you will just lose the game because you were the player number 2. And that's unfair, but, well, that's also part of the luck. Like, that happens in a lot of card games. So if you play it any...
Actually, my deck actually works better if I'm second. That's kind of the reason I like being second. My deck works way better that way. I don't think why, but most of the times I go second, I win.
Okay, but it also might be because when you are playing on your rank, your deck isn't complete, and your opponent decks also probably aren't complete. So I'm just talking about the level where like everyone have a complete deck. So
Yeah.
A lot of decks that are tier right now, they have some 1-drops, they have a lot of 2-drops, a lot of 3-drops, 4-drops. They just go for the more efficient tempo play. So the player going first, if he plays a creature turn 1, player number 2 will not play his creature turn 1, let's just assume he didn't draw it. Then the player number 1 will drop 2-drops, so he already have 2 creatures on the board, and he can start attacking. While if you are number 2, you can drop your creature for 2, and your opponent will either ignore it, or play his creature for free. And he can simply attack your face, and you can do much, because you are 1 turn behind him. And even assuming he plays turn 1, he plays a creature, you play a creature turn 1, he will still attack your face, and then you will be left with a choice to either attack his creature or attack his face. So he already made the attack first, so let's just assume you would just go evenly. So he goes face, you go face, and such, he still made the damage first. So when race approaches, the player who were first will simply have a really good advantage. Let's assume no non-player played ramp, so it's a mirror where none of the players had a mana advantage. So they both start with 0, they get 1 per turn. There is a card, Albert, Levin Saber. Do you know the card? Sourcecraft Legendary.
Huh?
Sourcecraft
Yeah,
Legendary, Albert. Do you know it? It's a 5 mana 3/5 with Enhance 9.
It's kind of cutting the signal in the call, so I'm not hearing you.
Okay, and right now?
What? Hello, I can really hear you.
Okay, let's see. Maybe it's a Discord thing. I don't know why. Maybe the Discord is acting up. Huh.
Oh, actually, I have a dimensional shift. Yeah.
Let's see. And do you hear me now? Okay, I will just try it again. Okay, so no idea. Do you hear me now? Or still nothing?
Yeah, I hear that.
Okay, great. So, what I was asking before, do you know the legendary for the Swordcraft? Albert Levin Saber. The 5 mana legendary.
Let me see if I have it. I think I have it.
Okay.
Oh, come on, shut up. Let's see. No, I don't. I don't have legendaries for Swordcraft.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if you have it or not, but if you can see the card, then just check it. And you can see that it's a card that got Storm, so can attack your opponent face immediately. And for 9, it will get a double strike, so it will attack twice. So, assuming a mirror match between Swordcraft players, the one who goes first can cast the card first. And this card gives you immense advantage. So, that's like the sole reason why the number 1 is usually better, because there are some cards that are just nuts when going first. So, Albert is one of these cards. If you cast it on 9 and your opponent couldn't, because he was on 8 mana the turn before, and then you are first, so you can cast the 9 mana card on your turn, you can either get a free trade, because he will not take any damage, or just deal enough damage to finish off your opponent, so he had no chance to respond. So, and there are a lot of cards that going as a player number 1 will give you advantage. So even though you said right now that your deck is working better as a player number 2, the more games you play, then you will notice you'd rather prefer to be the player number 1, because then you're able to dictate the game on your own terms. Like, you are playing stuff first and you can decide how to trade because you have stuff off the board. So because there is no interaction, like I already mentioned, during your opponent turn, that's another important thing. The player who have the board can dictate how the combat will go. So if you have your followers and your opponent have followers, if it's your turn, you decide how you want to trade. Which creature do you want to kill? So you need a bigger board most of the time, and if you have more creatures, it's easier for you to do so. So obviously going first gives you opportunity to play your creatures earlier than your opponent, so you can just play them on the board and he couldn't cascade no mana. And this gives you just advantage in trading. So that's really important thing to keep in mind.
I see. So that's kind of the lever the tier 1 decks are, right?
Yep.
Whoa. Well, I'm pretty noob, so I really didn't know that.
Yeah, because as I said, you played Yu-Gi-Oh! And WoW TCG. So in these card games, you could interact with your opponent during their turns, right? Like, there were some cards that you could play during their opponent's turn. You could interrupt them, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
Cards, quick spells.
For example, this is the thing that you could do. So when your opponent was doing something, he wasn't sure he can do it. So he was like, okay, I will do this thing, and then I will do this thing. And you would be like, no, you won't, because I will interrupt you, I will just cast my card and such. And then his action will be nullified. While in all of the, at least most of the online card games right now, so Shadowverse, Hearthstone, Duelist, Elder Scrolls Legends, Elder Scrolls Legends to some extent, because it have its own prophecy system, but it's not relevant right now. In all of these games, you simply interact with your opponent only during your turn. So, like, that's it. You just want your board, you will decide how you want to go with combat, you decide how his creatures die, so your creature fight this or this, and of course your spell have a certain effect. So you're always guaranteed that when you cast your spell, it will do the exact thing you want. Like, your opponent will have nothing to say against it. So that's why the deck with the additional turns, so dimension shifts, can work. Because if there was a way for your opponent to counter it, for example, or just made you unable to cast it for the turn, then this deck would be way weaker. But because you are guaranteed that where you cast it, the effect is gonna happen, that's why some decks will be viable in this game.
Oh, I see. That's kind of, meta, really meta right there. Like, wow.
Yeah, but that's just how the online card games are, like most of them. Because it's unlike the ones, the physical. So Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering and such, where you sit with your opponent, you play your cards, he plays your cards. It's just different. Because if they made you to interact during your opponent turn, it would be not only really hard for the game engine, but also it wouldn't be that simple. For example, with Hearthstone and with Shadowverse, you can play it on your mobile. So you can just play it while, I don't know, driving a bus, driving a train, sitting in a school, whatever. You can just open your mobile phone, pick up the game, and play a fast game. While if all of your decisions could be countered by your opponent, not only you would have to give your opponent time, because it would be something like, your opponent wants to cast a card, do you want to do something? And it would be another timer where you have to decide, do you want to do something or not?
Yeah.
And it will just extend a lot of turn time. While, as you know, because you said you played, in real card games, it's like, okay, I'm gonna cast it, and your opponent is thinking, like, for a little time, but then he just do something, like, there is no problem.
It's kind of, it gets really long as well. I really know that it's really, really stressful when you don't know how many cards are traps and how many are spells or something, when he just has the card face down. It's
yeah, so
it's do or take in most moments there.
Obviously. So it's just taking a lot of time, and also considering the information process. So how the information is sent between two players. So once again, the data sent, it will be much more data, and the interactions. Let's assume that you want to counter something, then your opponent lagged, or you lagged, or something, or your connection timed out. So once again, they would have to implement a good reconnection system that would allow you to still counter something. And current card games right now, the reconnection system is there for most of them, but it's not perfect because it's, I don't know why. Like, it's really hard. And most of these games do not even have working spectator system. For example, in Shadowverse, you can only spectate if you have the special spectator client with account, or you can spectate your friends' games. But only when they play with other friends. Like right now, I couldn't just click on your name in Shadowverse and be like, okay, I will spectate this game. No, it's impossible. That's the stuff you can do in Hearthstone. In Hearthstone, the spectate mode still have its flaws, but it's better than this option. Same goes for the most of the online games. In Shadowverse, it's not. So yeah, this is the only thing that game lacks at the moment. So that's why you have to spectate either via Steam or just screen sharing. There is no other option to see the screen of the other player, which is a pity, but I hope they will implement it soon. If they want to go big.
You don't have the privilege to stream on Steam, right?
Yeah, but like sometimes this happens. Like I already had this situation with one of the previous trainings that he wasn't able to, and well, that's not a problem because after all we can do something like this, so some question answering, and it's still probably gonna be fine.
Yeah. Is it better to have more like cards that cost 2 or better than are like 6 points? Or is depending on the deck?
So your mana cost depends entirely on the deck. When you go to these pages with deck list, you will notice the mana curve is different in any of them. Like in every of them. So one will have a lot of 1-drops, the other one will have 0 1-drops, the other one, like Ram Dragoncraft, will have a lot of high costing cards, and it will also include some ramps. So every deck is different, and because of this difference, you shouldn't just compare decks by the mana curve. That's not a good thing to do. You just have to look on the deck as a whole, so you judge it by, I don't know how to say it, you judge it by how good it is with synergies. So if your deck have a lot of synergies, it doesn't matter how bad or good your mana curve is compared to other deck, like how many high cost creatures or low cost creatures you have. As long as it works and have its plan done, then it's gonna be fine.
I see.
Because when you come from the Yu-Gi-Oh, you probably know a lot of decks and such, and you can already tell that some decks will play the cards that the other deck would never play. Like they only have sense when they are played with other cards, like synergies.
Yeah, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, the tuners and tuners, synchros, and with the new inclusion of the links deck, it's going to be way. Well, I mean, the links deck just basically prevents one turn kills from some
Okay.
From some decks. For example, cyber dragons are actually one turn kills. So links decks prevent this. That's the only reason I think they implemented. But I don't think Shadowverse has one hit decks, right?
They do.
What?
Yeah, in Shadowverse you also have some combo decks, because your opponent cannot interact with your turn. Like you do your own stuff. There are decks that will kill you within one turn. So there is a Forestcraft deck that play Rhinoceroaches. Rhinoceroach is a 2-mana storm creature, so it can attack your opponent's face immediately. It's a 1/1, but it gets +1 damage for each card you played this turn. And there is also this card for 1 mana called Nature Guidance. It can bring back any creature from your board to your hand and draw you a card. So you simply play some cards that cost 0, because in this deck you can make some cards cost 0. So you play some 0 mana cards, then you can play your Rhinoceros, you can bring it back to your hand, you can play it once again, so it will gain more and more attack, and because you can have 3 copies of any card, you would simply play either 2 more Rhinoceroses, or you can bounce it back once more and play 2 more of them. So this deck can simply kill you from 20 to 0 if you are not prepared, if you didn't kill it before it, and assembling the combo pieces isn't that easy, but the deck is still fine. Like, it's one of the... Forestcraft as a class is not as great as it used to be, but it's really good at the moment. It's still really good, and it can put up a fight. So this is the example of one turn kill. The other example can be the decks with Conjuring Force. So the Runecraft card have a card that says every time you cast a spell, give your followers +1/+0 attack. So if you are on low enough HP, or rather, even if you are on 20, if you left creatures on your opponent board, he can play a lot of spells, and if you play enough spells, he can still kill you. So that's another example. And another is from the current expansion. There is a card that says that after it dies, during the next turn, your creatures will have double the damage and double the HP. So there is a creature that have Storm, that have 5 attack, so it can attack immediately, and there is a creature that sacrifices a creature and brings it back. So usually it deals 10 damage. But if you do it with the setup of the previous one, so doubling the attack and damage, it will deal 10 damage, and then you can resurrect it and deal 10 damage once more. So that's 20. So there are plenty of ways in Shadowverse to do a one-turn kill.
Wow, well, that's... I didn't expect that.
Yeah, of course there are some options, but the decks that play the one-turn kills aren't that good. I mean, they're fine most of the time, but the best decks currently are more of mid-range ones. So a lot of mid-range stuff and bidding on the board. Combo decks aren't as efficient as they used to be, because they are trying to make some nerfs to tune down some decks, so some decks will be good after extended period of time, and some will be just nerfed. Because how they do the balancing in this game, at least for the last 3 months, they just showed the stats that, okay, this deck was dominant and this deck was not, and they would simply either tune down something or say, okay, this deck was too much overpowered, but the next deck, like if we nerf it, then this one will be overpowered too. So they did the thing 1 month ago, where Bloodcraft was the supreme deck, but the Havencraft was just behind it. So not only they nerfed some Bloodcraft cards, but also Havencraft Legendary. So just to make sure that Havencraft won't be the best deck after the trades. So the balancing team is there, they are looking after the game, and well, that's why it's fine. I mean, the meta is still not perfect, and some decks obviously will emerge that are more popular than the others, but they are trying, so I do appreciate it. Like, it's way better when they do, because right now they do a balance patch every month. At the end of the month they just announce that what cards are gonna be changed. So it's better that they change meta every month instead of doing something like in Hearthstone, where they literally just wait till the next expansion or make a rotation. They made nerfs or buffs. Like, I don't believe they made some buffs, but they made nerfs a lot of times, but it always took them a lot of months. So you would just play in a really cancer meta for extended period of time in Hearthstone, and it wasn't healthy for the game.
No, I see. But, well, that's kind of crappy, I mean.
Yeah, it is. And right now...
Changing meta every single time is kind of... Well, what did we do, man? I think it's good, even then. I mean, it at least makes you think about what you want to do or something like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but sometimes 1 month is just long enough, because the seasons are monthly in this game, so it simply allows you to play new decks or new stuff every month, because one strategy is gonna be superior for 3 months, because some decks will not get nerfed, some will not get changed, but the stuff that's too much overpowered in Shadowverse, it will get nerfed sooner or later, and then it will emerge as a good deck. Because right now, what I want to say previously, we have a prime example in Hearthstone. So in Hearthstone right now, they released the expansion something like 3 weeks ago, around a month ago, let's say, maybe little earlier, so 2-3 weeks. I believe it's 3 weeks, 3-4, around that. Whatever, doesn't matter. And they just made one deck get too many of the good stuff. Like the deck that was superior at the top get way more good stuff. And the current representation of the ladder in Hearthstone, you got 9 classes, and on the entire ladder, the almost 40%, like 38, something like this, is like one class only. That's not what's supposed to happen. And tomorrow we have playoffs. So playoffs are like a special event for the best players who try to qualify for World Championship and such, for another stage. And every single of the players have this class in their lineup. So there are a lot of card games right there. But I don't know, like I played a lot of Magic Gathering. I didn't play too much of a Yu-Gi-Oh, but I also played some time. You probably didn't had any event with something like 100 players where every player was playing the certain sum deck. Like, I don't know if it ever happened.
No. In Yu-Gi-Oh, I never had that problem. Well, there was this one regional tournament where it was filled with Zodiacs and Little Dragons deck, and it was like, what the? It was a complete kind of mess. I mean, it was the first who get the turn was the one who win because the deck was basically the same. So if you have the advantages of one turn, then you win.
Okay. But other than that, probably more of the meta were diversified.
Channel switched.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think Yu-Gi-Oh does really well. I mean, at least it trying to change the thing. At least I think that's what's happening.
But the other thing you have to consider, the Yu-Gi-Oh is physical card game. Same goes for the Magic the Gathering. So they don't have the luxury, and same goes for the Pokemon TCG. So either they simply make a new rules, but they cannot be like, okay, so we are gonna just give this creature more power because we like it. But the card is already printed, so they cannot just implement the change so easily. They cannot just say, okay, so from now on this creature will have additional power, and people will be like confused because new player will be see, okay, it's printed like this, why I have to apply additional rules that I don't know about. So in physical card games, it's not that easy to change cards. While in online card games, when they're only online, so Shadowverse for example, if they want to change the card, it will get changed, and it will get changed for any player on the server and such, because when they connect, and it's only online game, the card is already changed, so they do not see the older version, they are not confused, and it's not taking too much of a resources. Of course, it takes some programming, changing the code and how the card interacts, but it's not the same as changing the physical card games. So that's why in physical card games you got this ban system. So there is a ban list, and let's say like this card is banned, this card is restricted and such. While in online card games they simply nerf and the other stuff. They do not ban cards from tournaments.
Yeah, in Yu-Gi-Oh I have my first generation cards. The first generation like Black Magician, the Egyptian gods, all that, and they're basically banned. So I was like, what the hell happened right there?
Okay. Yeah, so that's the example. Like they will just ban it instead of nerfing or making it restricted. So that's how the physical card games. Like that's how the difference goes.
I see.
Okay, so other than that, because right now I suppose we'll just have to take some time to reel and do some other stuff with the Shadowverse. Do you have another questions, like for now, or do you need some help or guidance?
Well, no, I think that was all the question I had.
Okay, because you see, like I said before, like we could do more of this, but because you didn't play the game too much, you still do not have the collection that could allow you to experience the game on the higher level, because playing with basic decks is still not the same experience. Like you won't experience the game too much. You will play a little, it will be fun, but you are not playing a real deck, and your opponents are probably not playing a real deck too. So that's not there. It's like a demo version. Which, yeah, like to put it simple, it's like demo version. I don't know how it works in your country, at least in mine, we have for physical card games, a lot of this have like this free starter decks for most of the card games, when you get like 30 cards, which are super basic, but they're meant to just, okay, so new players arrived, we'll give them starter decks, they will just try to play the game. If they don't like it, they'll return it. If they like it, they get it for free. And the cards have no value at all. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I have my starter deck for Pegasus, Kaiba, and Yugi, so those are, well, I mean, they're basic, but even those are pretty good against in tournaments, I think. I mean, last time I went in a tournament with those, and I was able to get at least to the semifinals, I think.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, they're probably nowhere near the power level of fully completed decks.
Yeah, XY, materials and links are pretty much what destroy the balance, really. If you don't have XY things, it's kind of we're done.
Okay. So, like I said, if you have no other questions, then, well, I would just propose to you, like I said, to just reroll some accounts, try to find the most legendaries, and after you complete, you can just register to this Begum University program again, when you already, like, collect at least one deck and play a little more game, so then you can seek more guidance and such, because right now, you just need some decks. Without it, we cannot just progress footer. So it will be hard.
Yes, I see. Yeah, I will have to do that to get the packs and all that.
Okay. So if that was it, then, well, just feel free to message me on Discord anytime if you find any trouble. Most of the stuff should be in the link I sent you, so just check through it and you will get the stuff. And once again, like I said, when you feel good enough, then just sign up for the program again. Like, they are doing the sign-ups weekly, so every week you can sign for another week and such. And that's gonna be it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. So have a good night and good luck with your legendaries and riddle. See ya.
Yeah, thank you. They will try that.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that would be it. As you can see, here's my freaking masterpiece that I created during this stream. It looks awesome. It looks awesome, and I'm just gonna save it and I'll post it to Twitter, because why not? Like, this masterpiece deserves a medal. That's great. And anyway, like you heard, it was supposed to be a coaching session, but it wasn't quite one, because trainee was someone who was just starting to play the game. So yeah, there were not many things that I could teach him. Anyway, thank you for coming on both Twitch and Facebook, and see you one more time.